ways that climate change is impacting the planet can feel overwhelming. Freelance writer Kathiann Kowalski says, "No part of the world has been left untouched." Many of us have been harmed and will be harmed by the effects of rising greenhouse gases, and those impacts will clearly hurt our physical health. For instance, worsening asthma and heart disease. But climate change can also be bad for mental health, and psychologists now report that children and teens are especially at risk. In this article from award-winning online publication Science News for Students, Harvard Law School graduate Kowalski reports how experts weigh in on the psychological impacts of climate change and what youths can do to cope. Hello, this is Miss Mikey Valderrama from Paradise Farms National High School, and today, as we navigate through the wonders of grade 9 science, we'll talk about how climate change poses mental health risks to children and teens. But before we proceed to the article, let's take our first look at the words which you will encounter later. In this simple activity, try to guess the words described by each given definition by arranging the jumbled letters provided. Let's begin. Number 1. It is a nervous reaction to events causing excessive uneasiness and apprehension. People with this may even develop panic attacks. The answer? Anxiety. Well done! Let's proceed to number 2. It is a long-term significant change in the climate of Earth. It can happen naturally or in response to human activities, including the burning of fossil fuels and clearing of forests. What's your guess? Climate change. Very good. And lastly, number 3. In medicine, it is a mental illness characterized by persistent sadness and apathy. All right, the answer is depression. Very good. See, that wasn't so bad. Well, climate change affects people in many ways. According to Liz Van Susteren, a psychologist and an expert on the mental health effects of climate change, young people have growing brains which make them particularly vulnerable to environmental stressors. Have you noticed any changes in your feelings, emotions, or attitudes which were a result of changing weather or climate conditions? For example, how do you feel when it's extremely hot? How about when it's very cold? Okay, I see that you have different opinions on this one, and that's totally fine. So what do you usually do to cope with the stress brought about by climate change? Good to hear. Well, allow me to read the selection and let's try to compare our answers to that of the experts. Here is an adaptation for young readers of the article "Climate Change Poses Mental Health Risks to Children and Teens," written by Kathiann Kowalski. Climate change affects people in many ways. Direct impacts can hit hard. Extreme weather and sea level rise can destroy homes and property. People can suffer physical harm from extreme events as well. Even if someone doesn't have these losses, they may worry about what could happen in the future. Depression, anxiety, post-trauma stress, sleep disorders, and other problems can result. How Earth's climate has been morphing can easily disrupt normal life. For instance, Wildfires last year obliterated the town of Paradise, Calif. Kids and teens not only lost their homes, but also their schools. Many had to move away from their hometown and friends. Young people may have had trouble dealing with such new situations, not to mention missed school days and dealing with their roller coaster emotions, Van Susteren and other psychologists note. There are things teens and tweens can do to cope with any negative emotion that may threaten to overwhelm them. Those who feel negative emotions about climate change have to let those feelings out, Van Susteren says. Then, they have to take the energy of all those emotions and ask themselves what they think they are best at doing to correct what can be corrected. And there's much that young people can do. For example, 14-year-old Malo Albrecht is an activist. Since last year, she has been one of the leaders of Australia's school strikes for climate change. The movement began with activist Greta Thunberg, a teen in Sweden. Malo says taking part feels empowering. Other students may be great teachers, researchers, letter writers, and organizers for energy-saving programs, and everyone can practice energy conservation. That helps set social norms, Van Susteren says, meaning what's normal and socially acceptable. So there is a job for everyone, she says. Keep in mind that you are not alone. Find you teammates, your kindred spirits. Van Susteren recommends that these are people who are going to go the distance with you, she notes. Susie Burke is a psychologist in Melbourne, Australia. She's also Malo's mom. Burke urges students to get out in nature. That can help restore a calm mood. It also can improve someone's ability to focus on things, she says. There's also a time to say to somebody, I need help, Burke stresses. It might be when you can't stop crying. If you constantly think about something, if you lose interest in the things that you normally enjoy, if you feel more and more angry, if you feel overwhelmed or helpless, or if you shut yourself away from other people, if you wonder if life's worth living. If any of these things happen, talk with an adult who cares about you, Burke says. Any of those clues should signal stress, anxiety, depression, or another problem. And if you need it, professional counseling can help you cope, not only with climate change, but also with many other sources of stress. The most important thing, Burke says, is to have a sense of hope and optimism. And that ends our science reading for today. I hope that you learned something new or have been made aware of the things which happen around you. To check your understanding of the selection we just read, try to answer the following questions. Number 1. As a teen, what are the things you can do to cope with climate change? Number 2. Aside from the ones stated in the article, can you suggest other things that a teenager like you can do in order to cope from the stress brought about by climate change? And lastly, number 3, in your opinion, what lesson in life is the writer trying to tell you as the reader? Thank you for watching Project Reap's online storytelling. Don't forget to like and follow our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, in order to succeed, you must read.